In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this super cute mini chicken. For more information and links to the free pattern, please check out the drop-down description box below. Thanks for watching! Now let's get started. For materials, I am using everything listed here on the screen, so please pause the video to check that out. To begin, we're going to start with a magic ring or magic circle. I like to wrap the yarn around my fingers like this, and then I have 2 loops to begin my magic ring. This creates a much more secure magic ring that won't tear out as easily. Then we're going to simply chain 1 to secure this ring. Next, single crochet 8 into this magic ring. I'm going to place a stitch marker into my first stitch so it doesn't get lost. Continue placing single crochet into the magic ring until you have a total of 8. Next, we're going to close the magic ring. Placing my fingers at the back of my work to support the ring, I'm going to pull on the tail and close the magic ring. You can wiggle the stitches around and make sure it's completely closed by pulling the tail again. Next, I like to tie the tail and the working yarn together. This ensures that the magic ring will not slide open. Next, remove the stitch marker and place it into the last stitch we made. From here on out, I will be placing the stitch marker into the last stitch of each round. Round 2. In this round, we're going to increase into each stitch all the way around. This simply means to place 2 stitches into each stitch all the way around. Continue placing increases into each stitch all the way around. Once you get to the end, I will meet back up and show you how my work is looking. Here I am at the very end and going to remove my stitch marker to place the last 2 stitches. Remember to replace your stitch marker into the very last stitch made. Now, rounds 3 through 6, we're going to place a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Working in this fashion will create a little bowl shape for the body of our chicken. Once these rounds are complete, I will meet back up and show you how my work is looking. Here is my work once I've done all 6 rounds. You can count your rounds by counting these horizontal bumps all the way up your work. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 rounds total. Now we're going to divide the chicken. We're going to count 10 stitches forward, and into the 11th and 12th stitches from the hook, we're going to decrease. So this means to make 2 stitches into 1 stitch. And as you can see here, we have the head and the tail. So we're going to be going around the head space. I'm going into the 12th stitch here and decreasing. Now it's 1 stitch. Now we're going to decrease 2 more times. Remove your stitch marker because we don't need that anymore, and decrease 1 more time, this last time. Now you're going to cut a long tail. This tail is going to be used to close up the chicken. It's going to be about 15 inches long or 38 centimeters long. It's best to have a nice long tail too because some of these plush yarns will shed a lot. Pull the tail through the last loop on your hook. Place your yarn needle on the tail. Go around that head a little bit and close the very last space. After that, we're going to place stuffing in the chicken. And for this, I like to make sure the stuffing is along the outer edges of the chicken body. So you're going to create another little bowl shape so it has a space in the center. Once you've created that little bowl shape, I'm going to place one last ball of stuffing. Now just sew up the top of the chicken. When you get to the tail of the chicken, I like to add some little tail feathers. I just do this by looping the yarn around my finger and then creating a little knot at the base of the loop. Once the tail feathers are complete, I'm just weaving in this long end on my yarn. When weaving in ends, be sure to go in several different directions to make sure that they don't come out. So now the chicken body is all finished. We need to add the little red comb on top. I'm going to use a 4mm crochet hook and this really bright red yarn. For this step, you're just going through the top of the chicken head and adding your new fresh yarn. chaining 1, and then I'm going to place a half double crochet right in this first stitch here. Next, I am going to place 2 half double crochet into the same stitch, just a little ways away, again just right on the top of the head, and then I'm going to single crochet into that same space. Once that's finished, I'm going to cut the yarn and pull the tail through the last loop on my hook. Then we're just going to weave in these ends. I like to use these ends to kind of fix where there's spaces on the comb. So there's that little gold piece of yarn there, so I'm just covering that up with the tail of the yarn. And then I'm going to stuff the yarn down through the body. And then grab the other tail and stuff it down through again. After that, I tie those 2 tails together. Cut off the excess yarns, and then I will just stuff them in with the scissors here. And then use my yarn needle to try to pull them down through the body a little bit more. This yarn was shedding quite excessively, so I have the fluff everywhere. Now we're going to make the beak. I'm using a 3mm crochet hook. The beak is using a worsted weight yarn. This is just a brown acrylic. For this step, I like to take some extra time and make sure I know where I'm going to place the beak. Looping that yarn around my hook, I'm going to secure the yarn. And then I'm just going to place 2 half double crochet around the post of that stitch that I've chosen. Once that's done, I'm just going to cut the yarn and pull the tail through the last loops on the hook. And now I'm going to sew in these ends. Make sure you're going onto the opposite side of the beak on this side. And this just helps secure the little beak. So now it's like a 3D little beak. And the beak pokes out just like this. Going around the beak and back into the body of the chicken again. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other tail. And go around the beak to make sure it's very secure, and then into the body. From there, I'm just going to make sure the beak looks the way I want it to look. And then we're going to tie those 2 ends together. Trim off the extra yarn. Stuff the yarn down into the body. I like to press that knot down in there. It's easier to pull the last tails through. Once those are tucked in, we can now decide what we want to do with the eyes. With this little chicken, you can embroider eyes with yarn or embroidery thread. You can also use plastic eyes. Because this little chicken is not for a child, I am just going to glue on some plastic eyes. First, place the eyes and be sure they are exactly where you want them to be. And then I am using this Fabric Fusion glue to glue on the eyes. This glue needs 24 hours to set, and then they will be quite secure for a very long time. Now this little chicken is all finished. This pattern is super fun to make in lots of different colors. Here I have a little speckled chicken. This one has 2 little red yarns for wattles. Like the roosters have those big wattles, so you can add those. I can show you here how I add some little wattles underneath the beak. They are just 2 little red stitches. I hope you enjoy making lots of these super cute little mini chickens. If you enjoy content like this, be sure you're subscribed to the channel. I also love going through the comments and reading your thoughts. Click the like button on this tutorial and the share button so that other people can find this video. Have a lovely crochet day, and I hope to see you again in my next tutorial.